Namaste and hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel Melody with One Soul. In today's video, I'm quite excited to share a couple of things that I have been reading in this wonderful book called The Spirituality of Jane Austen, written by Paula Hollingsworth. Now, if you've watched my previous video, I did mention that I will be reading this book in the entirety of July, and I'm very happy to say that I have been loving this book so far, and I am here to share a couple of things which I found very interesting in this book. Now, I have not completed reading this book as yet, but this would be just part one of what I've been reading so far. So it's not the entirety of the book, but it is a couple of things which I found very interesting and relevant when it came to understanding how the spirituality of Jane Austen was infused in most of her works. So do please join me further in this video. The Spirituality of Jane Austen by Paula Hollingsworth. Spirituality, what does it mean? The word spirituality is derived from the word spirit and hence spiritual, which further finds its roots in the old French word esprit. This comes from the Latin word spiritus, meaning variously as soul courage, soul vitality, soul vigor, or soul breath. This word spiritus is also related to the Latin verb spirare, meaning to breathe. Just as breathing is one of the intrinsic parts of human life, similarly, spirituality is a dynamically intrinsic aspect of the humanity in all humans. The three most important themes of spirituality are: first, spirituality embodies the deepest core values which people seek to abide by. Second, spirituality opens the doors to the living in the realm of the sacred, which is beyond the material world. Third, spirituality encourages every person's unique journey to discovering their own inner essence and hence stresses upon the importance of their own unique inner path. In this book, the author, Paula Hollingsworth, explores the life and writings of Jane Austen while considering three themes. First, values and importance they hold. Second, the impression of looking beyond the material world. And third, the place of an inner path while exploring one's inner being. This book attempts to explore and make suggestions about the ways in which Jane Austen thought about and acted upon the spiritual, and this is done by a reflection on her life and characters in context of her time from every possible resource: her works, her writings, her memories, her prayers, and much more. This book approaches especially Jane Austen's rich novels through the lens of spirituality. Back during Jane Austen's time, her nephew, James Edward Austen Leigh, writes about his aunt, Jane Austen, in his memoir as, "I do not venture to speak of her religious principle. That is a subject on which she herself was more inclined to think and act than to talk, and I shall imitate her reserve. Satisfied to have shown how much of Christian love and humility abounded in her heart, without presuming to lay bare the roots whence the graces grew." In Jane Austen's time, the word spiritual was barely used, and it was generally the term religious which was used to ascertain the spiritual quality of an individual, faith being the foundation of it all. So to Jane Austen, the word religious would have meant Christian, exclusively Protestant Christianity in the Church of England in those times. But first, to understand the subtlety of this all, let us glimpse into the life of Jane Austen. Jane was born in a loving family on the 16th of December 1775 in a small village of Steventon in Hampshire, 7 miles west of the market town of Basingstoke. She was the second daughter of and the seventh child of her father, Reverend George Austen, who was the village rector there, and besides his duty towards the church as clergyman, he also ran a small boarding school for boys, an institution for learning and education to gain some income to support his growing family. Jane's mother, Cassandra Leigh, was from a family who had strong connections, and Jane's maternal family connections were all in the parish. Jane's brother and immediate cousins too joined the clergy later, except for a few. Hence, it was but natural to see the role and ease of mention of the clergy in Jane Austen's novels in Mansfield Park, Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice, and the likes. Jane was the younger sister to Cassandra, the first daughter of the family amongst boys, and the sisterhood bond between them was deeply inspiring, and it inspired the closeness of the sisters as seen in her work, as in Eleanor and Marianne in Sense and Sensibility, Jane and Elizabeth in Pride and Prejudice. Money was a pressing concern for Jane's family, as neither her father nor her mother had any inherited wealth or income, and most of the income came from the tithe paid to the parish clergy, which was hardly £210 a year. Tithes were a tax on the produce of the village land, payable by law to the rector of the parish. To supplement the income of the Austens, they ran a boarding school for boys, but rather than an institution, it was more of an extension to his family home. Jane thus had extra brothers besides her own, and would have grown up without illusions about the reality of living on pragmatic terms of a tight budget, despite having good connections with the aristocratic world through her parents' connection. Reverend George Austen, Jane's father, through the wealthy husband of one of his second cousins, Thomas Knight, who was the patron of the living of Steventon, which meant he had inherited the right to appoint the clergy to the parish. George Austen, Jane's father, became a rector because of this, and soon his uncle Francis added the neighbouring parish of Dean, where he was a patron. This can be glimpsed in the story of Pride and Prejudice, where Lady Catherine de Bourgh was a powerful and influential patron of the poor clergyman Mr. Collins. In reality, however, Jane's father, Reverend George Austen, was not expected to make any exhibitions of gratitude in behaviour towards his patron, as did Mr. Collins. Because of Jane's parents' social connections, they had highly respectable aristocratic acquaintances and were frequently invited for balls, parties, and social occasions and gatherings, which is where Jane's ideas for her novels began to blossom. Jane's education was largely at home, where she had free access to a collection of books in her father's library, based from classical literature to philosophy and much more. At church, she used to read the Bible. Hence, the foundation stone for learning was so set in life that all her novels she wrote later are but a reflection of the excellent foundation which she had in terms of an education. Jane Austen's family were Anglican. Hence, she had learned from both the testaments of the Bible about the idea of death and resurrection, not just in the life of Jesus Christ, but in the lives of other characters who were transformed due to suffering. A reflection of these biblical themes is seen in her works, yet it usually lies hidden and unnoticed. During the 18th century, Anglicanism usually stressed on order, balance, and duty. The core focus of Reverend George Austen's emphasis remained about learning through our own human reasoning and focusing on the evidence of God in the creative world design. In those days, the philosopher John Locke's work had much religious influence, and some called him the father of enlightenment. He stressed upon tolerance, balance between reason and revelation, responsibility of each individual as a moral being before God. Another important influence for religious life led to perfection was that of Archbishop John Tillotson, who stressed upon the need for a Christianity that was lived out in everyday life. Bishop Joseph Butler also emphasized the importance of balance between internal and external components of Christianity, the entwining of what is believed in and what is lived out every day. Hence, in Jane Austen's time, such teachings reinforced the deep sense of practicing their faith by living it out on a daily basis, rather than a demonstrative religious devotional display. It respected people's consciences, rather than being overly intrusive, upheld the structures of the society and expected people would recognize their moral duty to the neighbors in a way that was appropriate to their place in the society. A reflection of this is seen in the story of Mansfield Park, where we see our protagonist Fanny Price developing a quiet belief as she seeks to obey her conscience and to focus her energy and time to developing virtues which would completely equip her to fulfill her duty towards family and society responsibly in the eyes of God and men. In the story, the role of the local church was to encourage communities to be bonded by duty and loyalty, by manor house and church, and a deep partnership between squire and clergyman, as we see between Squire Sir Thomas Bertram and clergyman Edmund Bertram, supported by his wife Fanny. Jane Austen, like her brothers, was encouraged to find and develop her own unique path in life by discovering her latent talents and blossoming them in her works. She was encouraged to explore the world through deep and wide reading and to be introspective and be independent in thought, which were the roots of her rich imagination with a perfectly moral conscience, thus contributing to Jane Austen's development both as a writer and a woman of faith. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and just to let you know, in case if you love reading Jane Austen and if you are a Janite, so as to speak, we do have a readathon which is ongoing on Booktube. So I do have another channel called Hamsavahini Vajraasthra, in which I am participating in one of the readathons which is being conducted in the month of July on Booktube, and I will post a link to the announcement videos for that particular readathon in the description box below. Also, if you would like to see my videos in which I have participated and I've shared the books which I will be reading this year, I definitely will try and add those links as well. So you would find all of them in the description box below. If you love reading Jane Austen, do please join us for that particular readathon in the entirety of July. All you need to do is just read one Jane Austen book, but in case if you do have more time and if you would like to have fun in the readathon, you definitely can check the other challenges which are present in the readathon and definitely join us in this journey. So that's all I have for today, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you do like this video, do please click on the like button and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. So do take care of yourself and have a good week ahead. I will meet you with another video in the forthcoming week. So till then, take care and namaste.